In every single case in India, there have been exclusions, unfair and exclusions. But in the second stage, deletions were very small and deletions were overtaken by additions. Critical thing about Bengal is that it is only in Bengal that people who applied to be on the voters list were deleted on such a massive scale. So Election Commission can say, there's nothing special about Bengal. That's true. In India, how ages are recorded, so especially of people who are somewhat old, the same person can be 56-year-old, the same person can be 65-year-old, and they initially appointed 250 people to judge 60 lakh cases. The Supreme Court has contributed to the making of this mess, to making of this. Now the Supreme Court says, it's all right, you can go in appeal. When would the appeals be heard?
Hello and welcome. You're watching me, Sanket Upadhyay, on TheFederal. The show is called AI with Sanket. This is the AI of news because news in India today requires not artificial but analytical intelligence. The special intensive revision has come under a lot of criticism simply because of the manner in which deletions have happened. In Bengal, by some estimates, upwards of 90 lakh people have been deleted from the electoral rolls. Now, is this a routine exercise? Or is this an exercise which has been carried out deliberately with a malified intent? Now, one such person who has been raising a lot of doubts and concerns is Mr. Yogendra Yadav, who is now with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Yadav, for giving us time on TheFederal. I remember you hosted a press conference last week in the national capital where you addressed certain concerns. And then after that, you had the privilege of going on the ground in West Bengal and seeing for yourself what these omissions have done. Would you concur that what you observed here in Delhi and what you witnessed in West Bengal is a problem of the same magnitude?
Indeed, Sanket, I had said in Delhi that West Bengal is an extraordinary case because the Election Commission and unfortunately the Supreme Court has treated West Bengal in a way unlike any other state. And the results that we see finally of SIR are extraordinary in West Bengal. And that's something which is not quite apparent. I went to the field, I spoke to people who have been filing these cases. I got many of these actual cases of people who have been rejected. These are shocking cases. I'll talk about some of them in a minute or so. But let me begin by saying that, most people do not understand what is so unusual about West Bengal. You mentioned 90 lakh, upwards of 90 lakh. It's about 90 lakh, 80,000 people have been deleted. But then someone would say, well, in Uttar Pradesh, 2 crore people have been deleted. Even in Gujarat, large number of people have been deleted. In Tamil Nadu too. So what is so special about Bengal? That we need to understand. There are, two ways of SIR has led to removal of voters' names all across the country. And I've been saying this is disenfranchisement. Within this, there are two categories. One we can call exclusion, the other we can call deletion. Exclusion are those who fail to give enumeration form during the SIR process because they are absent, they are dead, they are duplicate or whatever. Yeah. Deletion is that of those who give application form, who give their enumeration form, who provide evidence. And after that, Election Commission decides that no, although you applied, you are not dead, you are there, but we do not think you should be on the voters list. Now, all the removals that we talk about throughout the country belong to the first category. If you recall Bihar, all of us spoke about 64 lakh names being excluded. That was not deletion, it was exclusion. And finally, when the second stage happened, there were very small deletions in Bihar, 2 lakh, but there were 23 lakh additions at that stage. So the final number was not 65 lakh, it was only 44 lakh. In every single case in India, there have been exclusions, unfair and exclusions. But in the second stage, deletions were very small and deletions were overtaken by additions. So if you look at the tables, Sanket, you would find that in every single case, once the draft list was issued by the Election Commission based on exclusions, after the draft list, the final list actually has seen increase in numbers. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, the draft list led to exclusion of 2.8 crore people, 89 crore people. But in the final list, it's only 2 points slightly, I mean, about 80 lakh names have been added to the list. In Chhattisgarh, 5 lakh names were added. In Tamil Nadu, some 20 lakh names have been added. In every single state, exclusions were followed by very small deletions and very large additions. Bengal is the only state in the country where exclusions were followed by massive deletions. The first stage led to 58 lakh exclusion, which is normal, with 7.7%, which is not different from any other state in the country. But in the second stage in Bengal, there were 6 lakh deletions on account of some specific paper related problems, and 27 lakh additional deletions took place in Bengal. So the overall deletions have touched. So in the beginning, the deletions were 58 lakhs. In any other state, it would have come down to about 40 lakhs, but in Bengal, it went up to 90 lakhs. So the critical thing about Bengal is that it is only in Bengal that people who applied to be on the voters list were deleted on such a massive scale. And it is only in Bengal that there is sufficient evidence to prove that these deletions were not only arbitrary, but they were also targeted at TMC voters. This is what makes Bengal special. This is why we should be paying attention. This is why this is a national scandal.
This is very significant. You are explaining how exclusions eventually led to certain amount of correction in a final list, but here the correction did not happen. There were even more exclusions. Now, one of the things that we have noticed in the case of Bengal is a provision called logical discrepancy, where certain provisions have been introduced by the Election Commission in the SIR exercise, where a larger number of people, and the allegation is largely TMC voters, have been excluded due to what the Election Commission says are logical discrepancies. Would you like to explain what these logical discrepancies are?
Thanks, Sanket, because again, there's a confusion about it. The fact is that logical discrepancy has been introduced not only in Bengal, it has been introduced in all states. But it is only in Bengal that logical discrepancies were treated in a very, very unique way as a weapon to exclude. So logical discrepancies were weaponized only in Bengal. Otherwise, in Gujarat, 1.2 crore logical discrepancies were found, and notices were issued in Gujarat as well. So Election Commission can say, there's nothing special about Bengal. That's true. In Madhya Pradesh, actually there were 3 crore logical discrepancies. But in most of these states, most of the people who were caught in logical discrepancy were not even issued notices. And when they were issued notices, those notices were taken very lightly and virtually no exclusion took place based on that. Otherwise, you can imagine what kind of a thing you would have in Madhya Pradesh with 3 crore logical discrepancies. What is a logical discrepancy? Logical discrepancy is a computer checking the details that you have given now with the details that are available 20 years ago for 2002. So I said my father's name is Devendra Singh, and he was a voter in 2002 in my village in Haryana. Computer checks his name and he says, no, his name was only Devendra, not Devendra Singh Yadav. So his name is Devendra, not Devendra Singh Yadav. This is a logical discrepancy. The person you are claiming to be your father is actually not your father. That's logical discrepancy. Or My father's age, given 24 years ago in that electoral election list, is less than 15 years more than my age. Now, that of course is a logical discrepancy, assuming that his age was correctly recorded then. Now you know in India how ages are recorded. So especially of people who are somewhat old, the same person can be 56-year-old, the same person can be 65-year-old, and someone can say, yeah, around 70. This is how it's recorded. But for a computer, it's a logical discrepancy. This is what has so in most other states, these discrepancies were identified. This started after Bihar. So Bihar was not subjected to it, but it was applied in every other state. But in most places, they saw it as clerical issues and overlooked it. But in Bengal, they weaponized it. They made this into a central issue. Election Commission said, oh my God, 1.2 crore logical discrepancy. Something is wrong with Bengal. They did not even look at the fact that the same thing was happening in Gujarat. Then Election Commission sent special roll observers. Only in West Bengal, 30 special roll observers and special roll observers were sent. In Uttar Pradesh, for example, only 4 of them were sent. In Bengal, 8,000 micro roll observers were appointed. In no other state was a single micro roll observer appointed. So this is this is weaponization of this software glitch. And then only in Bengal, then out of this 1 crore 20 lakh logical discrepancies that were found, 60 lakh people were put under special adjudication. All the 1.2 crore were given notices. And in the case of 60 lakh, Election Commission said that although the local election officers are saying this is not an issue, but we think it's an issue. In Gujarat, local election officers said this is not an issue. Election Commission said, of course, you are our officer, everything is fine. In Bengal, they said, no. You think it's an issue, but we suspect there's something wrong with you. This is an issue. So they identify 60 crore cases, 60 lakh cases where there was a dispute. This is where Supreme Court comes into play. Supreme Court says, oh my God, there's a dispute. What do? We'll bring in judges from outside Bengal to decide these cases. Mind you, this is only 2 months to go for elections. 60 lakh cases are being decided. The Supreme Court could have said, look, these election EROs are your own officers, if that is what they are saying. And according to law, EROs are the final authority on this. If you disagree, you go on appeal, but let these people vote for the time being. Sadly, the Supreme Court did not say so. Supreme Court said, we will set up special adjudication courts. How many? They initially appointed 250 people. 250 people to judge 60 lakh cases. Then the Bengal High Court said they are too little. Finally, they went up to about 700. Now, mind you, on an average, about 600 to 700 people are working for 1 month to give judgment on 60 lakh cases. We worked out the exact mathematics. If it is the most diligent judge who's spending 10 hours a day doing nothing, no chai break, no nothing, even then, this person is settling 25 cases per hour. Now, you imagine, and this is when these things happen. I'll just show you one of these cases. Cases decided by a court. This is a judicial court. So here is the case of, I was in Calcutta, in Baliganj constituency. And this is someone called Sadamul Haq. Sadamul Haq says, my father's name is Iftikharul Haq. All right. So he says, this is his father's name, Iftikharul Haq. The logical discrepancy, this is the routine spelling. Iftikharul Haq is written here. It's a standard. The computer does not agree. The computer said, no, your father's name was different in 2002. Now I want you to please show this thing. This is his father's name written in 2002. What does he say? Iftikhar Harul Haq. So what's the difference? There is a space between K and H. Just a space. This is logical discrepancy.
Oh.
Which is to say his father is not his father. Now, what does this poor man do to prove he cannot go and change his father? He cannot get his father to change his name in 2002. What he can do is that he can produce he can produce a PAN card which has his father's name spelled exactly as it was produced in 2002. Not just that, this man is smart. He actually produces passport. He has a passport. Now, now just remember the case. Because of a computer software, he gets notice. Normally, election commission should have said, forget what is this notice. All right. He gets a hearing. In the hearing, the officer says, yeah, this is all right, doesn't there is a problem. No, election commission says, no, there's a problem. Then it goes to a judge. And the judge says, yes, this is a fit case for deletion. His name has been deleted from the voter list. You tell me, what kind of a joke are we living with? This is what has happened to so many of them. Women who are being told that your grandfather's age is less than 40 years more than your age. Now, how can you, what does she know about how her grandfather's age was recorded? Maybe the grandfather was 82-year-old and his age was recorded as 72 years. That's such a normal and routine thing. What can she do about it? This is what is adjudication done by judges. I do not accuse the judges of bias. I think they were facing an impossible task. No one in the world can do this. And sadly, it was the Supreme Court of India acting in things that it had no business to act in, using an extraordinary jurisdiction under Article 142, which is the final jurisdiction Supreme Court has to waive off everything else and to create something in order to ensure justice. Supreme Court used Article 142 to create this extraordinary mechanism, which has revealed the kind of results that I'm, showing to you. Now, this is what we are dealing with. So 27 lakh people are excluded. This is a mess. But the Supreme Court has contributed to the making of this mess, to making of the right. Now the Supreme Court says, it's all right, you can go in appeal. When would the appeals be heard? The Supreme Court said last time, no, supplementary appeals, supplementary lists can come. That very evening, the Bengal CEO said, thank you very much, my lists are frozen. So the lists are frozen, the patient is dead, and we are debating about how operation should be done. Shall we get better instruments for operation? This is not good. Let's get the finest. Let there be no problem in operation. But my lord, the patient is dead. The elections are over. Lists are frozen. Yesterday, the Supreme Court said some very, very nice things. Supreme Court said, Justice Joymala Bagchi said, this is not just a normal right. This is so critical to your status as citizen. This is a sentimental issue. You cannot be deprived of it. But can anyone forget that Justice Joymala Bagchi himself had said 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago in the previous hearing, that if you can't vote this time, it's all right, you'll get a vote next time. Is this the way the Supreme Court treats these things? This is shocking. And basically what has happened, not to put too fine a point on it, Election Commission in league with the BJP has deleted 27 lakh votes, largely in a targeted political exercise, in a way which was unfair, a procedure which was very hasty and non-transparent. And the Supreme Court has put its stamp of approval on that. It is a very sad case for our democracy.
No, you've explained in great detail of what exactly has happened. But Mr. Yogendra Yadav, here is my question. You say that there are very few officers who have been tasked with the job of looking at these anomalies in a logical discrepancy and then fixing them. And it is a Herculean task. It is virtually impossible for them to achieve this, and that's why you have the case of this gentleman that you mentioned. However, is this unique to only, as you allege, voters of the TMC or people from the Muslim community, or are these logical discrepancies existing in other voters as well? Because you accuse this of being targeted against a certain set of voters. But this logical discrepancy, if it is all driven by computers, will happen to, say, Hindu voters also. The same scarcity of people will be applicable to the Hindu applications also.
Absolutely. And if you recall, this is the same procedure through which Amartya Sen was also issued a notice, because they said your age and the difference between your age and your mother's age is less than 15 years. How can that be the case? So yes, software was not picking only TMC voters. Software doesn't even know. But in Bengal, 1 crore 20 lakh logical discrepancies were identified. But finally, only 60 lakh cases went for adjudication. My question is, who decided that? Who decided that out of these 1 crore 20 lakh, only 60 lakh should be put under special scanner and adjudication? Why is it that in Madhya Pradesh, not even 30 lakh cases were put under adjudication or special scrutiny? Why is it that this was not an issue in Gujarat? Why is it that this was an issue in Bengal only? And then in Bengal, why is it that when the EROs are saying that, yes, I've looked at this case, looks all right, why is it that the Election Commission wants to take it to adjudication? That's one. And now finally the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in eating it. Now the data is out. So we can see. Take Nandigram. These are, because Election Commission has made it so hard for anyone to download the actual names of deletions. Some people have done it, and I must salute them for the work they have done. Nandigram is a constituency where Muslims are 25% in the voters list. And Nandigram is not on the Bangladesh border. It's in old Mednipur district, closer to Odisha than to Bangladesh. In Nandigram, in overall population, there are about 25% Muslims. But among those put for adjudication and those deleted, Muslims are 95%. How is that possible, you tell me? Bhawanipur, constituency Mamta Banerjee contest from. Muslims are about 40%. I don't have the exact figure. But among those deleted, again, Muslims are close to 90%. How is that possible? And someone has done an overall analysis of Bengal, which I cannot verify, but I was given those figures, looked quite credible. Among these 27 lakh names that have been deleted, 65% are Muslims. In Bengal's population, Muslims are about 27%. Among people who were excluded in the first stage, Muslims were about 27, 28%, as is the normal stuff. That is what gives rise to the suspicion that it is targeted exercise. These 60 lakh names that were put under jurisdiction and adjudication to the judges, 1/3 of these cases came only from 2 districts of Bengal, Murshidabad and Malda. These are the Muslim dominant areas of Bengal. This is what gives rise to the suspicion. And when the BJP's leader gives an interview to say, after SIR, our prospects have improved, this is what gives rise to a suspicion.